Hi, I'm Shifra, and today I want to talk a little bit more about how we can start to break out of the snow globe and actually step into our role, our destiny as partners in co creating together with the Creator this new era of geula in our minds, hearts, lives, and world. So I want to start by quoting a prophecy that the Lubavitcher Rebbe talked about extensively in a discourse that applies to these times, very much to these times, and it talks about the Jewish people, but you'll see in a minute that this actually applies to everyone in the whole world. It's actually our global situation. So the prophecy from the prophet Micah says that there will come a time when the Jewish people will be surrounded. It actually says the remnants of the Jewish people will be surrounded by many nations to the point where they will not be able to trust in man or to rely on human help. And at this point, the prophet says the Jewish people will turn to God, seeing that there's no other alternative, and everything will turn around immediately into the supernatural, into the triumph of good over evil, and so forth. So the whole world, as it's easy to see, has reached a place where, or is reaching a place at least, where our problems are greater than our solutions, or as is sometimes said, the questions are bigger than the answers. This is the time to turn to God. And each and every one of us has the capacity to do that. And when we do, things can miraculously turn around. Why? Why is this much more true now than it ever was at any time in history? Because of where we are in history, because this is the time of Geula. And as the Rebbe also said, we are the last generation of Gullus, of exile, and the first generation of Geula, which means that both of these states exist within each one of us, and we get to choose. We get to choose. And that brings me to the second part of what I want to say about the snow globe, and that is about morphic fields. So you may or may not be familiar with this concept. It's been around for quite a while in the consciousness movement, and it's definitely has a deep truth to it. There's no doubt about it. So this whole idea of what's called a morphic field or a morphogenetic field is that everything in the world has, in a background sense, is feeding into and is getting fed from fields of information, like a plant. It's not only its DNA that tells it how to grow, but it's connecting to a field that tells all plants of that type how to grow. And I'm covering this as quickly as possible, but just to give you the general sense, in every belief system, in every culture, there are also these fields. So, for example, having interviewed many different kinds of energy healers, I see that they each have a different set of results that they can reliably, predictably get with their healing. The reason? Because each of these systems is connected to a different morphic field. This deserves a class in itself, but just to give you that idea. So what the Rebbe goes on to say in this discourse is that in our times we have a choice about which field. He doesn't use that exact term, but that's what he's saying, which field we want to be connected to. And depending on that choice and the actions, the congruent actions that we take to align with that choice, that will bring us our results. Very, very, very different laws of cause and effect in each of these fields. So the first field is the field that we've lived with always since the beginning of creation, called the field of Memale Kol Almin. It's the light of God. You could say within the snow globe, the light of God that is that shows up differently depending upon the expansiveness and the level of the vessels to receive it. Meaning, for example, a very spiritual or very smart person, a very sensitive person is going to have more power than a less sensitive or less smart person, more power to connect, to create, and so forth. A person who comes from a very wealthy family where they teach him how to do wonderful things in business has far more power to succeed in business than someone who didn't have the education. Someone has more connections, has more power to succeed. That's all of these things are very true from the realm of Memale Kol Almin, this first field. Basically, this is the light of God encompassed in and expressed through the laws of nature, which of course are being created by God in real time. So they aren't actually laws from the top down, but for us, when we're in this field, when we're in the snow globe, they are in fact laws that limit us. From the second perspective, which is far less explored and has been mostly unavailable for all of history until now, the second field is called Sovev Kol Almin, which is the light that transcends and surrounds all worlds. What this technically means is that there is a light of divinity so intense, so full on expressed, that it is too much to be encompassed in our world. We would just blow out of existence if it were fully revealed. But what's happening as the snow globe is cracking is that that light is more and more accessible. Now, in order to access that light on a consistent basis, to start to practice bringing it into our lives, and it is a practice, it's going to take probably more than one video for me to really explain this, but in order to start that process, we need to remove our consciousness from the snow globe. We need to stop feeling like victims, to stop feeling separate, and we need to take a leap of faith, even if that's all we can do at first, and declare ourselves, inside of ourselves, partners with God in bringing geula. And then we need to align our thought, our speech, and our actions with that declaration, with that intention. And as you do that, and again, this takes practice, and it's a work in progress. Nobody really has walked this walk before, but the doors are open for us now. And as you do this, what you will start to find is that the world becomes malleable. From outside of the snow globe, things happen that really shouldn't be able to happen, because outside of the snow globe, from this perspective, from this morphic field of Sovev Kol Almin, the laws of nature really don't apply. It's true that we need to be involved in the world, because the world is the target of geula. Heaven is going to be revealed not in heaven, but here on earth. So it's earth that has to change. And that's a step-by-step process that we need to generate from the bottom up, one step at a time, without necessarily knowing how. How could we know how? But the first thing is where you're putting your consciousness, what you're making a decision to connect to. Are you going to be a partner, a co-creative partner with God in the ushering in of geula? What does that mean to you? Once again, I want to remind you that I'll be dealing with this in very powerful and specific ways in my upcoming program, Light Out of Darkness, Purpose and Miracles in Chaotic Times. And you can find more, you could be on my list to find out more about all of that, and also to sign up for my free 3-part introductory program, Authentic Kabbalah Secrets to Living a Miraculous Life, at my website, www.gateofunity.com. Looking forward to seeing you again very, very soon. More on breaking free of the snow globe. Blessings and love from Jerusalem. See you soon.